we'll be doing tonight, we'll be telling 3 stories about possible social action initiatives that could be taken in the parishes. We'll be one quick image that again is from Francis that kind of sets a context for tonight. Pope Francis, one of his letters was one on social friendship that came out a few years ago. And that the basic point he's making there is that his vision for a single family living in a common home, that's the world, then it's people of goodwill from all faiths and none working together to build a society based on friendship, respect, and inclusion. And for Francis, it's not about the church trying to set up its own systems, but it's about cooperating with others, whoever they are. And that's a new emphasis that one time that as a church we would have wanted to either take over everything or set up parallel structures that we would be in control of. But Francis is saying that that's not part of the future, that we work respectfully with all sorts of groups who share a common desire for a single family of human beings living in a common home, caring for our earth. So tonight we're going to hear from 3 groups. We're going to hear about the men's shed. We're going to hear about active retirement. And neither of those are specifically related to the church, but they're functioning in the same society, in the same communities as the church functions in. And it would be good for us to be friends with these and to cooperate with them. And then the third group we'll be listening to is St. Vincent de Paul, which has its origins in the church.
Richard Murphy is my name. I'm in Carsaveen. I am the regional vice president of the Vincent de Paul in the Kerry area. So Marie is a colleague of mine who works in member support. So I suppose just to thank you, Martin, for the opportunity to maybe set out our stall and explain to people what we do. I maybe will give a rough idea of what we do, and if anyone has any questions, they can ask me afterwards.
That's great. I just check in with Marie first, Richard, before
yeah, sure.
Order. Marie, you're talking to us from Cork.
Talking to you from Cork, yeah. But I do have a bit of Kerry root in me, so as I said, I had the toe in Glenflesk, so it was grand. My grandfather was from Glenflesk originally. Yeah. As Richard said, I'm the member support officer for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in the southwest region that covers Cork and Kerry. So basically, a colleague of Richard's, and my role is to support Richard and the other members of the region who look after the region right down as far as the members on the ground. So this is a great opportunity, Martin, and thank you so much for making contact with us, because it's lovely to be able to talk about the work that we do in various different contexts, so people really understand where we come from. And while we're part of the church, we work very much side by side.
So I suppose that last statement from Marie is code really for, if there's tough questions, Marie will answer them. And if there's easy questions, I'll answer them. Look, I think Vincent de Paul would be, I suppose, super familiar to everybody in Ireland at this stage. But maybe people don't have a context of just how kind of big we are in general. So we're long established. Last year, actually, we celebrated 180 years. And it was in 1833 that we were founded in Paris. 1884, we came to Dublin. So it started in Dublin, but it's spread to all of Ireland at this stage. And there's approximately 1,200 conferences with 11,000 volunteers. So it's probably the biggest single charity in Ireland. Certainly in terms of volunteers, we have a lot of volunteers, but we cover a huge area. So the society is basically broken down into 3 kind of concepts. There is a region, an area, and a conference. So the conference covers, kind of down at very rural local parish level. So I'm based in Carsaveen, so my conference covers from we'll say the far side of Castlecoat to the far side of Kells, which wouldn't be overly familiar maybe to most of you, but it's a, probably a 40-kilometre kind of gap between the two of them. So it covers a broad rural area. There would be a huge amount of rural conferences, but a huge amount of urban conferences. So Kerry in total would probably have about 30 conferences. Cork would probably have about 70 conferences. So there's approximately 100 conferences covering the region. And then there is approximately 1,100 volunteers covering that area. So the work we do is, I suppose, what people traditionally know as is supporting individuals and families who would need help, who would need support. And the core of our work is visitation. That is really what we are about. It is about meeting people, understanding their needs, understanding how we can help them, understanding how best we can help them, which is what we think might be fantastic help may not actually be what a family or individual thinks is fantastic help. So you get an understanding of how we help people by meeting them. So involved in that, and it kind of sounds simple in ways, but it can be difficult to achieve. So the one thing I would say about my time in the Vincent de Paul is there's a training element, and Elle-Marie might speak to that maybe at some stage, because Elle-Marie would be involved in that side of it. But members are trained really well and supported very well in terms of the skills that it gives us to go out and meet families and meet individuals. And I would say those skills are constantly updated. There's a lot of training involved, and it gives us skills to be able to go out and meet people, and in a very non-judgmental way, in a very confidential way. It's important that families understand that when they meet us, they can be guaranteed confidentiality. And we're not really interested so much in how people got into situations they're in. It's to get people out of the situations is really where we're at. I would say in the last 7 to 8 to 10 years, the work of the Vincent de Paul has changed a lot from what we would traditionally associate with Vincent de Paul. The type of people that we engage with now are very different to the type of people when I started. And Elle-Marie is longer in the society than I am, and I think she might speak even better than I would on that. But certainly there is a new, I suppose, class of people that we engage with, which we refer to as maybe the working poor, husband and wife who both have jobs who are struggling. Cost of living is a massive factor. I'm sure everybody here can understand that and can speak to that. Traditionally we might have helped people with, what we would be associated with fuel, maybe energy bills, maybe food vouchers, things like that. But now we have, we put huge resources into education. The Southwest region alone this year will expect to spend over 800,000 on third level education. We spend close to 100,000 on post-primary education. So I suppose those figures maybe give you a sense of the scale we're at. And we'll say the education figure is a figure that is a recurring figure. If it's 800,000 or 900,000 one year, it's the same the following year, and it's more again the following year. You won't ever see a dip in that now. So I suppose the biggest challenges for the society are recruitment. In a rural area like ours, there's a constant challenge of trying to reach out to people and get people to engage with us, people that need help, and we know they need help, but they find it so difficult to make that call or make that contact. That's a huge challenge in rural areas, and I know I've spoken to people in in other rural conferences, I'm at regional meetings and some national meetings, and I always kind of make it by business to inquire about rural conferences. To a certain degree, I think city conferences can take care of themselves, but from just to feed into my own knowledge base, I always ask about rural conferences, and the single biggest factor that everyone always mentions is just how hard it is to get people in rural areas to engage with us. We know they need help. To a certain extent, they know they need help, but it's to get them over the line that we can support them is a challenge. So I suppose just in relation to the slide previously that Martin showed about Pope Francis and this idea of working together in the community and things like that. Like we are a confidential service, and it's important that when people engage with us, they feel that confidentiality, and they're assured of that confidentiality, and it is guaranteed on our side of things. But we advocate for people so that sometimes somebody can have a multitude of problems, a myriad of problems, and maybe we can't solve all those problems. So sometimes we're maybe just a link in the chain, as opposed to the whole chain. So we are very keen to engage with other organizations and charities and groups that I suppose have a similar ethos and interest in ourselves in reaching out to people and trying to, I suppose, improve people's lives. So I suppose that's a general, I suppose, little preview or introduction as to the type of work we do. Maybe Marie can maybe add to it in some way she sees fit. I'm happy to, if anyone has a question, obviously I'm happy to answer it.
We might pick up on that in a minute, Richard, but maybe just to go over to Marie, and particularly Marie's that question of if a parish wants to establish a Vincent de Paul Society, if it doesn't have one, how does it go about it? Like, what's your own role in that regard?
Well, part of that role would be, first of all, that you would establish that there is a need for a conference in the area. Is it possible that there's another conference in that area that covers, or you want to make sure that there's also going to be enough work for people to do, just not to establish something for the sake of establishing it. But at the same time, it is important that, like, we are a community-based organization. We want to be part of the community. We want people to understand where we're coming from, that we're there to help. And as Richard mentioned, so much about our confidentiality. But in order to start something like that, a local area president would touch base and maybe give a talk off the parish, the altar, and asking people, are they interested in getting involved locally, and organize a meeting for like-minded, interested people who are interested in developing a conference in the parish, and go through what exactly that needs to be done. But the most important thing really is to establish that there's actually a need in a parish or a particular area. It's pointless putting something in unless there is actually a need. Okay. Otherwise, people will lose interest very, very quickly, and it'll just go downhill. And it does take a bit of while to establish something like that, and it's going to take a bit of time and dedication by the new members coming in. But the one thing I can say is that they'll be very well supported, both by myself as the member support officer and the area president. But also what would probably happen there is that maybe one or two members from other existing conferences nearby would help come in and get them established. And once they're established, then kind of, step back, now we've taken off the stabilizers, off you go, and things like that.
Yeah. And so I'm hearing that there would be a support there for a group that wanted to start that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh no, I mean, there's you couldn't just expect any group of people just to start off and here we go and this is what you do and leave them off. No. There'd be a fair bit of support for them over a period of time, a minimum of 6 months, maybe up to 12 months. I mean, and I have been, with conferences that have set up, and it's taking, the best part of 12 months for them to establish themselves and for them to have, confidence enough in themselves that they're actually doing the right thing, and there's never, you can't really go wrong once you are looking after people in the right way for the right reasons. And, a lot of people like to get involved because they want to give back. They've maybe been recipients of assistance some time back in another lifetime for themselves, and they just want to give a bit of time back to assist others in the parish. So, there would be a huge amount of support to make sure that conference was established enough that it stays together. If you just think about the conference establishment really in 1857, and here we are in 2025, and it's still there. So, and that's what it's about.
Okay, we might just go on to that last slide in case there's anything there now that you haven't touched on, and then we'll throw it open to folk for a few minutes. Okay, so that's your steps there. Just establish the need.
I suppose kind of like to what we kind of say training needs analysis. That to look is there a parish that isn't being served by SDP or any other organisation that would benefit from it. And again, they will have the resources supported. They will be supported by an area and a region until it's up and running. And they also would need to, give them visual support on how to do their own fundraising and church gate collections to support the work that they do. And again, when is the workshop going to run? This hasn't been decided yet, but it's a piece of work that would need a group of people to come together to establish that need, and then we could set up the workshop and go from there.
You pick it up from there. That if somebody
could I just add to it, Martin, and say,
go ahead, Richard. Yeah.
That look, I suppose starting up a new conference is a big task of work, and it would require probably 7 or 8 people to kickstart it, to get it going. Now there may be people who'll see this on the parish website and think they may be interested, in ones and twos, an individual kind of level, and I would say, look, while we're open to setting up a new conference, we're open to adding to our existing member base of volunteers. So somebody might see this and think, look, they're interested in joining the Vincent de Paul, in which case I just direct them to the svp.ie website. In fact, I direct everybody to the website, just in terms of, if they come across people who may need help and are wondering what to do, or they're interested in joining the Vincent de Paul, there's a huge volume of information and access routes and guides as to how to help or how you can join, or lots of information on that. So I would point people to that as a kind of first port of call.
Okay. And we'll put that up on the website along with this video.
And look, it's actually, there's lots of interesting stuff on it. If you if you go on it just to see it, it's a very interactive website, and there is lots of interesting information on it.
All right.
One of the things as well people could do, Martin, if they thought they were really interested to kind of in setting up something in an area that didn't have something, is to maybe get involved with the neighbouring parish or something like that for a little while to kind of get a taste of what the work is about, and then bring a group of people together and again keep it supported that way. And that's kind of one of the ways you could work on it as well. But it just takes it's something that's will take a bit of time. But as Richard said, I would be inclined to encourage people to join another conference first, to see what the work is like, and then with all of their information and again establish if there's a need somewhere else, that we could set something up new and that all the support would be there for it.
Well, listen, then we'll move over to Anne. Anne, where are you? Anne from the Active Retirement.
Well, I'm from Active Retirement Ireland. I'm based here in Crosshaven. I'm the Southern Region Development Officer, which again, like the BDP there, Cork and Kerry.
Okay. And you're a volunteer, like that's something you do in your spare time?
A voluntary organisation and registered charity, and everybody's a volunteer. there's 97 groups of active retirement in Cork and Kerry. And in theory, I'm supposed to look after them all.
Yeah.
But in fairness, most of them are very good. I mean, emails and, are very handy for me. But groups form and they are all what we call autonomous, in that they do whatever the people in the group would like to do. They're formed by just ordinary people who decide they might like to have a little social club together, who would then help people to kind of combat loneliness and bring in people, that would maybe not have gone out before, or maybe have lost somebody, or, and we would be very much inclined to get people out, because the social interaction is the most important thing, obviously, for everybody,
Okay. And the fact that you call it active retirement is that your normal target group are people who have finished full-time work. Would that be right?
It would be, nowadays you're not allowed to say anything about ageism or anything like that.
Yeah.
But basically people who are retired or semi-retired, or obviously women are never retired, but anyway, people with a bit of time on their hands now, maybe have a bit of the empty nest syndrome or whatever's going on, and that they might like to get out and maybe meet somebody that they could go to the theatre with, or just have a cup of tea and a bit of crack, or, that they just like to have a little bit of social environment around them.
Okay. And a typical active retirement group, like what would they do over the course of a year generally?
Well, usually in an active retirement group, you have got a small committee, which is the usual, like chair, treasurer and secretary, because obviously you have to have the treasurer who takes the money and the secretary who gets the mail, but it's not like through the chairs strict, that type of thing, it's very, very social. And they really get the feel from their members what they're interested in, what they'd like to do. They do ballot boxes and things. They're like, okay, if for this season, what would you like? Put in, you don't have to put your name in it, when just put your name in if you want to do it. I always say, whether you want to climb mountains or you want to go to pictures, it doesn't matter what you would like to do. If you would like to find a friend from the group here, or if you'd like to do things with the group here, it's very, very different in every group. They might be making stained glass windows, they might be crocheting, there could be, usually we try to put the emphasis on the active, as in active retirement, and so we would encourage the healthy exercise side of it very much, and even chair exercises for people who, don't want to get up and maybe move around a bit. And we just try and encourage them to go walking and to be very active. And an awful lot of people are, they just need someone to go with, need a little bit of encouragement to do it,
So what that sounds like is that each group would plan some program of activity across the year. That could be a mixture of
speakers, trips. Basically, they love going on trips. It's
right,
might only be to Dublin for a show, or it might be 2 or 3 days up to Donegal, or they might take a week somewhere. Some of them even go abroad. But they really love to go somewhere and have, I suppose, in a way, have it done for them,
Yeah.
They don't have to book the thing online, and they don't have to have any responsibility, really, only turn up, basically,
Okay. So it's a social group made up of members, and then a small committee that would do a good bit of the planning and that. Would that be right?
Well, it does happen that way. People doing things for themselves would be our motto, and that we like people have a wealth of knowledge of themselves, and they're, we like to try and get them to be more, I suppose, proactive in things, and to suggest things, or to help out with things and stuff like that, because people can blossom out. Maybe somebody was very quiet all their lives, and now suddenly they're coming out and they realize that they could do this and they can love to do that, and even if it's only a flower arrangement, but they, things they would never have done before. So it's open to all sorts of things, whether you're learning a language, or, as I say, or just having a cup of tea. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. So then, if say a parish council or a few people in the parish wanted to start a group that they don't have a group, how do they go about it? Like, what are the steps?
Right. Well, there's actually 2 types, I suppose, of starting. There's the ones who would come like that now from a group, who wanted to start a group, and you would normally go and meet them, and then we would decide Would we have maybe an open meeting and ask some more people if they want to come in? Have we got a venue? Where would they propose to have it? And then we see when they join Active Retirement, then obviously they get insurance, so that side of it is covered. But we just need to do the basics first of all, and then we have to get a small committee from that group because, as I said, someone has to get the post or whatever. And but we do always try to emphasise like that. It's not a come in and sit down and what are we going to do to entertain you today. It should be, what am I supporting you to do? We try to get people to be more take part in that themselves.
Okay.
So the meeting then would just take on from going strength to strength, as the development team would always be there for them, and we would go down, obviously, to the first meeting and to a few more meetings, and we would also give them contacts for clubs that would be around them. We call them ARAs, which is Active Retirement Associations, right? So the ARAs could meet each other and they would hold what we would call a cluster, where they would, maybe 2 or 3 groups would get together and they might have a social event, or they might, they'd be doing something. We have all these Go for Life exercises and the Sports Council with scooch and pickleball and all the different games that they have for them now. And they usually, we provide trainers then through the Go for Life will train up people in each group, even to show them how to do and play the games and do the exercises. So that, anything goes really once people want to get started.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there, and there's so many groups in Cork and Kerry that there's bound to be a neighbouring community has an active retirement group. So that if a parish wanted to set one up, there is a kind of a procedure, a public meeting and so on, and that you're there to support them.
Oh, we've been supporting them forever. That's more or less what the development team are there for, to support the existing areas and help the new ones get started and whatever,
Okay. And again, we'll say that, so the ARA is the
Active Retirement Association.
Yeah.
Because Active Retirement Ireland would be ARI, right?
Yeah.
But Active Retirement Association is ARA. And it's much easier than saying that whole mouthful anyway.
Okay.
Like the idea.
Yeah. Now, you're a volunteer and you have quite a responsibility, but you don't look tired of it or anything like that. And if I could comment, is that fair enough? Is there a bit of life in it for you, a bit of energy?
Actually, you get a great buzz when you see a group get going and you see all the people enjoying it and making new friends and doing things. Like, there's great satisfaction in it. No, there's a lot of pain and trouble in it when the ones are only whinging and they want you to do it all. That's the other side of it, But no, generally, I do get a great kick, and I've made great friends in different areas out of it. And Ireland is divided into 9 regions.
Yeah.
And we're the southern region, Cork and Kerry, but each one has a regional development officer as well. So we would meet up and, we would be sharing ideas and things that we could do for people. And we have a regional committee in every region. So they run 2 or 3 meetings a year for the whole area where they all meet up. We have our regional AGM now in Killarney on Wednesday. So, it's another way for them to meet other people and find out what other clubs are doing and, get new tutors or get whatever information they want.
Diane, Dermot here. Did we meet you at Filemore recently? County Council were involved.
No, I wasn't at that. But
Okay.
You might have met Kathleen. I said my colleague was there.
Ah, yes, yeah.
And Nora O'Connor from Kerry as well down there. They were both there, yeah.
Okay.
And what was that, Dermot?
It was an active retirement gathering in Filemore where the County Council got involved. We brought all the areas, all the people from all the various associations to it. And it was oversubscribed.
Was it?
And it was excellent. It was incredible.
Could I just say, we do have a very good website. If anybody wants to look at it, they get a lot more information. There's a monthly newsletter on it, what all the groups are doing around the country. It's activeirl.ie.
Okay. And again, and that'll be up on the website along with this recording.
Oh, great. Okay.
All right.
Perfect. Thanks, Martin.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll leave Anne there. So we've heard 2 stories so far, and very much in the spirit of Francis, looking to build up a civilization of love. And I hear that as a very core word in what both you both described, that respect for people, that desire for people to experience community, to experience belonging, and to live lives to the full. And that two different kinds of intervention to make that happen in people's lives. So fair play, fair play. Okay, so Morris, we'll go on to you in Ballyhaig, and you're going to tell us a third story, not unlike what we've heard so far.
No, not too dissimilar. My name is Maurice O'Driscoll. I'm the secretary of Ballyhaig Men's Shed, and I'm the county volunteer for Kerry. The Irish Men's Shed Association, it's a national association covering 535 men's sheds across the country, both north and south. In the interest of time, I won't go through the missions and purpose and visions. You can read that later on. But what is a men's shed? It's a dedicated, friendly, welcoming place where men can come together and undertake a variety of activities. They can do as much or as little as they want to. The activities are driven by the men in the sheds themselves. So they decide what they want to do. And from shed to shed across Kerry, it varies completely. If you go to the men's shed in Killarney, they're very big into music and singing and sing songs and stuff like that. They do woodwork as well, but that's their core. And then you go to a place like Ballybunion, where they like to just sit down and chat and have a cup of tea. And then you come to a place like Ballyhaig, where they're quite into woodworking. So Ballyduff, into gardening. So you have a variety of different activities that is developed within the shed themselves. Often it's a member will come in that had those skills and will teach them to the other members within the shed. It's a place where men can come as much or as little as they want to. It's a place where they have an interest that there's something for them to do there, or they can just simply sit down, have a chat with someone and have a cup of tea. It's all about not just developing the physical well-being of someone by keeping them active, but the mental well-being as well, that they're not sitting alone at home. It's not targeted at people that are retired. Anybody can join a men's shed from 18 years old upwards. Some of the members in Ballybunion are in their 20s and 30s that have had car accidents, or they've now got an impairment due to that accident, and the shed is their source of community outside of their own home. A shed, it's not a formal training facility. But you more than likely will get some new skill or knowledge from it, or develop a skill that you already had years ago. It's not a service for men, but activities are organized by the men. It's not a sports club, but they can play sports, from walking football to the walking with the Nordic pole skis, to cleaning up the beaches if they're in a coastal town. It's not a health program, but health and well-being is at the core of the whole thing. We have a health and well-being manager based in head office in Offaly, and she rolls out programs throughout the year. This year we hope to have 6 full-time people literally going across the country, teaching how to cook meals, healthy meals, for men that are on their own, or men that have someone with them, but they're the sole carer for that person. So those people will be literally going around to the different sheds, teaching the men that. Next month, we're starting a bowel screening program that all the volunteers across the country will get trained in this, and then bring that information out to all the sheds. everything from, whenever we hold a conference or an event, we will have an ambulance service there and a couple of doctors, and they will be taking blood pressure of the men just to give them a quick health check. And it has happened. I've been at an event where it has happened where one of the men came in and literally the doctor called for an ambulance, the man that minute, wouldn't let him out of the room. And that man had a stent put in that night in hospital. He was that close to a heart attack. So the physical well-being and the mental well-being is at the core of everything. There's some of the woodworking shops that go ahead. You can see there, it's painting. It all depends on the interests of the men. But it's all about the men. It's not about the shed, it's about the men. There's 565 sheds across the country, as I said. There's 11 in Kerry, Ballybunion, Ballyduff, Ballyhigh, Listowel and Tralee in North Kerry, Killarney, Carsaveen, Waterville, Dingle, Kinmare and Sneem in South Kerry. Some of the biggest challenges that they face during and setting up a men's shed is getting a venue. Ballybunion are very lucky. They actually rent an old school from the diocese, and they have a fantastic building that they get. Ballyduff also have a building from the diocese. Ballyhigh, we have one from the GAA. Listowel operate now out of the Family Resource Centre. And Tralee have a venue in the Old Mart. But then you go to places like Sneem and they're struggling to get a venue at the minute. So that's perhaps where the diocese can really help. Existing sheds and setting up a sheds where that they would have buildings that are not in use that men's sheds could avail of. Like Sneem is in dire need at the minute of a venue. A survey that was done in 2013 and is still relevant today, 89% of men reported that they feel better about themselves as a result of sheds. 97% were more confident as a result of attending. And you can see that when you'll get guys that will come in that may have retired a year or two ago and, they had a few things to do after retiring, but then whether the wife told them to get out of the house and do something, or they felt it themselves, or they met someone that's in the men's shed and brought them to it, and that person just completely comes out of their shell within the shed. The core of it at the start was, you may have seen at the start of the slides, was men don't talk face to face. They talk shoulder to shoulder. Men are the worst at keeping an eye on their own health, physical and mental. And often when they're working with someone, be it repairing a bench or building birdhouses, or simply sitting down with a kettle and a cup of tea, and they'll open up about things in their lives. And, a problem shared is a problem halved. And that goes a long way within the sheds. In our own shed, we have a recently retired postman who hasn't got a great love of woodwork or anything like that, but he runs our kitchen and dining room like a 4-star restaurant at the moment. So you have something within a shed for all men. At the moment, our biggest challenge as the association is actually getting funding. For the past couple of years, we've had what they call a subsistence allowance grant, and that was pulled this year. So we have had to apply through the council for the LEP funding. Now, every other organization is open to that funding as well. So over the next year, we can see a real struggle with sheds and actually being able to fund themselves. If depending on the shed and what they do within the shed, your public liability insurance could be anything from 300 to 1,300 euros a year. And then you have electricity on top of that. and the actual running of the shed itself. Everything is done on a volunteer basis, but it still costs money. So funding a shed is a big problem since the government took that away. And that's where I step in. I keep an eye on whatever funding is available and disseminate that information out to the sheds so that they can apply for it. I will come along and help them do the applications for it. Just to try and keep the doors open and the lights on in the place. I will give them steps that they can use to actually develop their own source of funding, so they're not relying on any type of grant, be it where they can sell stuff that they make, or how to organize and conduct a street collection. If any groups do feel that they want to start a men's shed within a parish, the first step would be contact me. I will tell you exactly step by step and hold your hand the whole way through the process. We would set up an informal meeting within the parish to see, first of all, is there an interest in it? Because if you don't have men, you know, you can have a building, but it's not a men's shed without it. If there's an interest in it, then it's to form a working group. Now, within that, you do need someone. You know, every group struggles with the person that has to do the paperwork, but you need someone within the shed that can do that paperwork. So it's forming that committee, initial committee at the start. You would be invited out to neighbouring sheds and other sheds around the county, to see exactly what the other sheds are doing, to get an idea of where you want to take your shed. Finding a suitable premises, again, the biggest problem for any shed. And then getting everything registered, and there's a whole plethora of documents, and we would help you step by step get everything above board and set up for that shed. But like I say, the direction that the shed goes is totally up to the members of the shed themselves. Anybody got any questions?
Thanks, Morris. And again, just to say, we'll put all this information up along with the information with the slides that you also gave me, you know, in terms of the follow-up. So thanks a million for that. Okay, folks. So that's Morris talking about the men's shed. And again, we'll just take a few minutes. If there's any question, we can get rid of the slide there now, yeah. If there's any question or comment, please just click on the raise hand or shout. But just unmute yourself.
Hi, Martin.
So great. Go ahead, Bernie. Yes. How are you?
Hi. No, I just had, I suppose, like two questions. And one is, certainly the active retirement seems to be a much more informal structure. But for the other two, do you find that governance is becoming more of a burden, and that could possibly put some people off, especially initial people, to start off an organization in their area? And then the second question I had was, you know, the organizations obviously cater really well for people's, you know, health, physical health, mental health, and well-being. But is there any aspect that is open to, I suppose, spiritual well-being, or is it offered, is it sought? Do any of the people who attend, do they look for this aspect? Thanks.
Good. Thanks indeed, Bernie. Go ahead, Morris, there on the governance and the spirituality.
Okay, the governance, yes, there's a lot of paperwork at the start, getting a constitution set up and everything like that. But that's where I come in, and the organization comes in themselves, and helping you get all that set up. Yes, there's a lot of paperwork with any organization nowadays, and it seems to be getting more and more, which is why you do need, of that core committee, people that are able to do that. I found it when I joined Ballyhaig Men's Shed that, yeah, they kept a little bit of a handle on it, but a lot of things were, you know, stuff written on the back of a fag packet kind of attitude. So it's actually keeping a record of all that paperwork and getting the health and safety and all of that organized. And that's where I come in and help them with it. But yes, you do need someone that's capable of doing that paperwork side of it in the first place. From the spiritual side of it, again, that is totally up to the sheds. They're not given any agenda from it nationally. If the sheds want to pursue that themselves, that's up to them. They set their own agenda for what goes on within their own sheds.
Good, good. Thanks, Morris. And O'Brien, you wanted to come in there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wanted to compliment Morris on an excellent presentation. It was absolutely.
Thank you.
And they're just on the spiritual side of things. Again, we're non-denominational, so anybody is welcome in the club. But they are, I suppose, interested in spiritual things. Like, I mean, they love to take a trip to Knock and things like that as their outing. So, it's not that it wouldn't be like that we would have a spiritual thing, actually people coming in to talk to them, but we will have trips and stuff like that if they want to go, or if there's a conference on or something they want to see, we organise stuff like that for them. And also just to say that even though it might appear to be very easygoing, we still have all the same paperwork for governance and everything else that Morris was talking about. So I probably simplified it a bit too much, not to frighten people off.
And Marie, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, just on both of those, from the point of governance and paperwork, I think unfortunately any of us that are in the voluntary community sector today, it's a pain in our brain. But I think what we have to get across to people, it's for their protection as well as the organisation and for the people that we're looking after at the time. So that's the important part of that, and there's no getting away from that, not anymore, so it's something that people, if they prefer not to join us because of that, that's their decision. But I don't think there is any organisation, voluntary and community sector in Ireland today will not have some aspect of governance, guidelines, paperwork, and again, just emphasize about protecting them, From a spiritual point of view, the society, as I've mentioned, we're a lay Christian organisation, Catholic in origin. However, we welcome all faiths and none. Our meetings begin and end with a prayer. And it's not about saying the prayer, it's about coming in from a very busy life that we all run and race to, and taking that 5 minutes to stop and reflect. And, to take on board, right, well, this is a meeting about how we're going to look after people that have come to us with a request, and taking that time out. And that's a very important aspect of the ethos of the organisation. We ask people to respect that. If you don't want to say the prayer, that's fine, but you respect people saying the prayer around the table. That would be our aspect of spirituality. And sometimes it's just giving people that 5 minutes to stop and take a breath.
Thanks, Marie. Good.
Can I just ask, Morris, have you any trouble or difficulty getting members or holding on to members, or is it a challenge, or are you oversubscribed in areas and undersubscribed in other areas, or?
I don't think you'll ever be oversubscribed in a shed. Like some sheds have 50, 60, 70 people coming 4 or 5 days a week, above in Mayo especially. If there's a strong and active leadership within the county, it tends to push through, and within the individual sheds themselves. Finding members, I think that's where a new way of looking at it can actually help. Is that, for example, when we started doing the street collections here in Ballyhaig, actually talk to the men that are coming up and giving you something into the donation bucket, and we've gotten them through that. Having a public image, so that if the Tidy Towns are doing something, the men's shed will jump in and help them in it, and people see them then with the high vis with the men's shed on it, and they go, "Oh, what's a men's shed?" if they've never heard of it before, or they didn't even realize there was one in the town, and you can get members that way. we get members referred through the Cancer Society or the health board. If a man has had, say, a heart bypass or stents put in, and where his doctor said you need to get a little bit more active besides sitting in the armchair watching TV all day, we'll actually get a phone call from them that this person wants to join a men's shed. I'll get the phone call if they're in Kerry going, okay, that's the closest shed to them. I'll put them in contact with the person, put the person in contact with them, and it goes from there. So we get referrals that way as well. There's a huge volunteer network around the county that sometimes live secularly in that they don't interact with each other, and they rewrite the same paperwork and try to reinvent the wheel when someone else has done it. And sometimes they're their own worst enemies, that they don't actually talk to different organizations.
Yeah. So so Francis is onto something there. All right, Morris, good. Bernie, you wanted to get in?
Just the word is community. I suppose the whole community spirit came out through all the talks, and it was very inspiring. So thank you.
Yeah. And Marie?
What struck me was the generosity of people's time. We hear so much today, oh, I'm time to do this and I'm time to that, and I'm too busy with this and too busy. I'm just fascinated listening to the active retired and the men's shed. I'd like to join the men's shed myself. I have to find a women's shed in Cork somewhere to get involved.
Just a matter of interest, Morris, not to get you into any trouble, but can women join men's sheds?
Absolutely. The volunteer in Laois is actually a woman. She's the county volunteer for Laois, Fiona.
All right.
Although there is a woman's shed in Tralee and one in Killarney.
Actually, I was struck exactly like Bernadette. I was struck by the sense of community and your enthusiasm and energy. That alone is life-giving and attractive. So thank you very much for that. Thanks to one and all who have attended. As we said, we'll have these up on the Diocesan website. We'll have them on our Diocese of Kerry YouTube channel by tomorrow evening. And let's hope we meet, in the highways and byways throughout the diocese over the coming year. So thank you so much.